Welcome in. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. As you're coming in, feel free to write in chat where you're joining us from. Okay, wow. Yeah, I see we have Elizabeth joining us from LA. Welcome. In Portland, Oregon. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, yeah, a couple people from LA. I'm in San Jose right now. Let's see, we have a few more people joining. We'll get started in just a few minutes. All right, yeah, we have someone else joining us from San Jose as well. Welcome. And yeah, as Dr. K said in chat, we will be sharing this recording afterwards. We'll give you more information at the end of the webinar where you can access that. We'll just wait about one more minute. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us again, everyone. It was great to hear where you're joining us from. And we're so excited to hear from our speaker.
Thanks, Jamie. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Saili Kulkarni, Associate Professor of Special Education here at San Jose State. And I just want to welcome everyone to this session. We're so excited to have you all here and to have our featured speaker, Helena. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping things. Anna, if you could go to the next slide for us, please. Thank you. So a recording of this event will be available afterwards. We have a website here for the Intersectional Disability Studies strand of the Institute for Emancipatory Ed, and that's our website. For those of you who would like to make them available, captions are available in this webinar and in the recording. To turn on captions, you would go to the bottom bar of your Zoom and click CC. All attendees' videos and audios are going to be automatically turned off, but you can use the chat to communicate with one another and with our presenter. And we will have a short little Q&A at the end of the webinar, so feel free to put in any comments or affirmations during that time. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. You can also follow along with us on Twitter if you'd like to. We have SJSU's Lurie College is at SJSU Lurie. We also have a hashtag which is Disability Visibility SJSU. Next slide, please. And then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Marcos Pizzaro to introduce the Emancipatory Education Institute.
Oh, thanks so much, Sally. Well, welcome everybody on behalf of the Lurie College of Education here at San Jose State and Dean Latimer, who had a conflict and sends her apologies and excitement for this session. I am Marcos, I'm the Associate Dean for the college. And I just want to say that we're really thrilled to have this opportunity to engage in this thoughtful, powerful, necessary conversation and the ongoing conversations that we've been having that center the wisdom of disability scholars. We're so appreciative of Siley and Suda for leading the work in the Intersectional Disability Speaker Series and centering it in our college discourse related to like our strategic plan and everything we do. In particular, like our efforts, we're trying to develop these culturally sustaining and extending practices and feel like this is just like a perfect model of what that looks like. And we're also really grateful for the partnership between this speaker series and the IEE, the Institute for Emancipatory Education, which has been doing really amazing work under Rebecca Borsiaga's leadership this year. And with Tarayaso as our scholar in residence. So the last session, I don't know if folks saw it, but the one on Helena pedagogies was really inspiring. It was just this perfect model of how to develop transformative curricular approaches that center community strengths and support all students in seeing their knowledge as essential to our work in the university. So finally, I just want to say I'm so excited to learn in this session from our guest professor and Black girl scholar, Helena Donato Sap. I'm just really thrilled to be a part of it. So I want to thank you for your willingness to be our teacher. And that's it for all of my welcomes and thank yous. And I'm handing it back to Siley.
Thank you. And we're going to go to the next slide and have Dr. Sudam Krishnan introduce our Intersectional Disability Studies strand.
Hi, everybody. And this speaker series is part of our series of talks at the Intersectional Disability Studies strand at SJSU. And if you could go to the next slide, there is a little bit of information about our goals. Our goal is to develop an intersectional disability studies strand within the Institute of Emancipatory Education. Our aim is to generate a community engaged, culturally sustaining space that centers disability, visibility, and disability as an intersectional marker of identity. And we would like to centralize a space for intersectional disability studies and accessibility in education. Next slide. So what we have done so far is to generate a syllabus and course for the Transformative Leadership minor. And we are facilitating this speaker series of disabled activists of color to speak to our faculty and students at SJSU. And we are also involved in doing some research in the form of a self-study of the process of co-constructing a course with multiple stakeholders, which we want to maybe generalize to generalize to other departments and help with intersectional disability studies within the curriculum of various departments like computer science, engineering, and so on. As is everybody, I'm very excited to hear what the speaker today has to say, and so I will not waste any more of your time. Siley, back to you.
All right, let's get this party started. I'm going to introduce our speaker today. So I'm going to just read a little bio of Helena. So Helena Lourdes Donato Sap is looking forward, or is a forward-looking, 12-year-old author, speaker, artist, and activist who believes that children and young people can and must tackle tough topics such as racism, homophobia, misogyny, poverty, and climate change. Guided by her own lived experiences and intersectional identities, Her emerging scholarly work is currently focused on Black girlhood, disability justice, and decolonizing the curriculum in her school. She enjoys playing the violin, reading science fiction, practicing martial arts, and traveling the world. Helena is a prolific young Black girl scholar with such an amazing vita of work that she is probably ready to go up for tenure and promotion. She has published in magazines, written book chapters, and is in multiple peer-reviewed journals. Just this week, her latest publication came out and is in the Journal of Equity and Excellence in Education. It is titled A Kitchen Table Talk Against Ableism, Disability Justice for Collective Liberation. And I'll be happy to put that link in the chat in a little minute. You can find out more about Helena at her website, which I'll also put in for us. And if you want copies of any of her scholarly works, you can just email her two dads, and their information is also on her website. And we'll be watching a short PSA video that Helena actually made on disability justice as her opener, as part of the introduction. Helena founded a chapter of Girls Learn International, which is a project of the Feminist Majority Foundation at her school this year, and a club that is called Conversations for Justice. The purpose of the club is to get dialogue going on her campus about critical issues. As a culminating activity for the first semester's club, each member had to choose an important issue to them, research it, and then do some sort of presentation. We'd like to begin this session to have you view Helena's short PSA as she did as president for Girls Learn International, and afterwards Helena will speak to us more about disability justice. Just a note that this, it is important that there's a particular version of the PSA shown, so we have linked that in our presentation here today.
My name is Helena Donata Sapp, and I am in the 7th grade. My school, like most schools around the nation, have a core set of values that guide all of us in our academic and personal lives. There are 5 core values at our school, and they are responsibility, adaptability, respect, kindness, and honesty. And I believe that these 5 core values are at the very heart of disability justice. Disability justice is a movement that builds upon the disability rights movement, which seeks to help secure rights for disabled people. The disability justice movement was founded by a group of queer, disabled women of color. And this is very important because it makes the disability justice movement rooted in marginalized communities who are striving for collective liberation. I, for one, am most interested in grassroots movements founded by the most historically excluded and marginalized groups, such as women, people of color, immigrants, and people who identify as part of the LGBTQ+ community. Disability intersects with all of these identities, and it is intersectional spaces that interest me the most as a girl of color, as a daughter of an immigrant, and as a daughter of 2 gay dads. I want you to know a couple of definitions that are, in my opinion, important to disability justice. The first important term is deficit ideology, and that means some people see you as less than, as not capable, as behind or stupid or dumb in academics. I'm sorry to have used those words, stupid or dumb, because they are such violent words, but I've heard them used in my school. When you view someone through a deficit lens, it just means that you think they are less. It means you think you are better. The second term is asset ideology. And as you can guess, someone with an asset lens looks at you and sees all the wonderful gifts you bring into a classroom. The third important term I want you to know is learning differences. Learning differences are the learning disabilities that many in our school community have, but often do not name in school. If you are wondering why people would not name their learning differences in our school, I would suggest that it might be because some people carry shame around the aspect of their identity, or they don't feel like their school is safe to name it. And that's because so many have gotten confused and think that learning differences mean the same thing as learning deficits. And I'm here to say that it is simply false information. This is such an important point in the disability justice movement that I am just simply going to say it to you again. Learning differences do not equal learning deficits. And as an advocate for disability justice, I lean on the wisdom I learned from Dr. Q, a teacher who I had last year, who taught us an entire unit on our identities. And she taught us that all of our identities matter and that the assets that all of us bring into our school community are our wonderful, glorious, beautiful, fabulous intersectional identities. Not some of those identities, but all of those identities. There was a video that went viral a few years ago, and maybe you have seen it yourself. It showed the UCLA's basketball team. One of the players, Moses Brown, made a bad pass and his team lost the ball. He kind of hung his head in shame and disappointment. But one of his teammates, a guy named Jalen Hands, walked up to Moses, placed his hand under his chin, and tilted his head up back where it belongs. And this is one of the things that disability justice means to me. It means that all students should be encouraged to be very proud of all of the identities they bring into school and hold their heads up high about each one of them. Disability justice invites everyone in the school community to see that disabilities as yet one more gift brought to the school community. Disability justice is about the very core values that our school promotes to us constantly. Our first core value is responsibility, and to be blunt, it is irresponsible to be in any school setting, in any role, and think with a deficit ideology that anyone in school is less than because of any identity they possess. Our second core value is adaptability, and to be blunt, everyone can learn in richer and deeper ways. We all tap into the different ways we learn and celebrate them. Our third value is respect, and to be blunt, respect should be at the core of our individual person-to-person, student-to-teacher, peer-to-peer, and teacher-to-student relationships. Our fourth core value is kindness, and to be blunt, I've witnessed the opposite. We must do better by each other. Our fifth core value is honesty, and to be blunt, my own heart seeks to go to a school where all students are treated with dignity and respect and supported to do the best they can academically. If any among us violate these core beliefs, by interacting with another person on campus as if they are less than. It is breaking the trust with the most sacred beliefs we say that we all hold. Disability justice is a movement. It is also a way of being in the world, of knowing that each of us are all assets and no deficits. Disability justice is thoughtful, loving, and strategic schooling. Disability justice is not competitive, but supportive, affirming and working together so that everyone can succeed. My hope is that you have learned a little bit about disability justice and that you will remember that learning differences are not learning deficits. I, for one, commit to walk my school campus with my feet firmly planted in the school's core values of responsibility, adaptability, respect, kindness, and honesty. As a member of this school community, I will hold my head up high about all of my personal identities, and if needed, I will be an ally and remind you, much like Jaden Hands did for his teammate Moses Brown, to hold your head up high as well. Thank you for joining me in Conversations for Justice. Thank you for that introduction and this invitation to speak to you as a young activist who seeks justice in the world. I wanted to begin with that recent PSA on disability justice because it is one part of what I want to say to you, and along with my hope that you'll read what I had to say in the Equity and Excellence in Education article. It paints a more complete picture of my life as a young girl with multiple learning disabilities. Each of these pieces speaks to a different community, and each one has a little bit of a different perspective. But this is a real joy for me right now to be speaking to what I guess I would call my disability justice family. Long story short, I was born at 27 weeks pregnant. I was born at a 27-week pregnancy and spent my first 2 months in the NICU and had heart surgery at 10 days old. I spent my first year on oxygen and a heart monitor, among my many early medical needs. Fast forward to first grade, and my teacher suggested to my two dads that I'd be tested for disabilities. My parents had a great response to this, and it speaks to who I became and why I am speaking to you today. I know some parents shy away from having their kids diagnosed for lots of reasons. My two dads' response was, all it means if she has disabilities is that we'll have a new and loving community. And here I am today, speaking to you now, my loving community. My specific learning disabilities have to do with a visual processing disorder, a working memory disorder, dyscalculia, and ADHD. Many of these are fairly common learning differences, and I probably represent a lot of students in schools. Some who have been lucky to be diagnosed like myself, and some who struggle and don't know why yet. A couple of important points frame my talk today. 1, I love my school. I'm the first kid on campus every day. I enjoy school. I am a nerd. I love learning, and I always try to go beyond whatever rigor my teachers give to me. When I get home from school, my parents give me a 30 minutes to relax before we start homework. And guess what I do in my free time? I read. I say that I love my school because I am also critical of schooling. Sometimes people don't get that I can love my school and still be critical of it. I can both love my own school, but be critical of things I experience in schooling because my school is just like every other school. My second thing that is important to know is that people are surprised that I am already a veteran activist at the age of 12. I've been doing activist work all of my life, and if you want to know why, then I will just be blunt and tell you that the world brought the fight to my door because I am a girl, a dark-skinned Black girl, adopted, have 2 queer dads, one raised in poverty and the other an immigrant. My birth mother was an immigrant, and I have learning disabilities. I had to learn how to be fierce the very second I was born, and certainly the very second I walked into a school building. These 2 points are important to me. That you know that I love my school, and you know that I'm responding to a world that is anti-Black, misogynistic, anti-queer, anti-immigrant, and wants to diminish my intersectional identities every chance it gets. In my short time with you today, there are 4 things I want you to know. First of all, school is hard. Nothing comes to me easily. As educators, I want you to know that every single piece of homework you send me home with takes me 3 times longer than you think it does. Listen to me. I don't care that school is hard. I don't. What I do care about is when teachers make it harder than it needs to be. For a lot of us with learning disabilities, we need teachers who have some flexibility. Not every student learns the same way. Here, let me say that again. Not every student learns the same way. Okay, just be sure. Let me say it a 3rd time. Not every student learns the same way. All we ask that you give us is a fair chance. It is important that you are thoughtful about all of your students and their abilities. I specifically want you to know that testing sucks, and it doesn't measure me well. We decided as a family that we would opt out of all standardized testing. We are proud of that stance. Standardized testing is awful for anyone, but for those of us with learning disabilities, it is torturous. A lot of other tests are like that for me because I need a time and a half. And along with the stress of memorizing content for my test because of my working memory disorder, I often have to watch my peers look at me with ugliness because I am getting extra time, and they think that's unfair. Which is one reason we must have conversations about disability justice more in our classrooms. And that's why I did that disability justice PSA. I have to understand how schooling views and treats my intersectional identities. And in anything that diminishes my personhood, like wrong measurements of my gifts and intelligence, is something that I will confront. I have never met a test I like, not once, and still I press on. Second of all, more kids are mean than kind. Kind kids are outnumbered 5 to 1. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but that's just been my experience with learning differently. Kids are really competitive, and they know who's top, fastest learner, and responder in class, and they also know who struggles. They think fastest equals smartest. I don't, but they do. I had my own peers look at me right in the eyes and tell me that I am the dumbest person in our class. I've earned an A on a difficult test, only to have them laugh and say that my A had to have been a mistake and that there was no way I got a higher grade than they did. In other words, when you have learning disabilities, you can't win whether you struggle or succeed. Since we are talking about intersectional identities here, it is not lost on me that I am also a beautiful, dark-skinned Black girl, that my family was created through the wonder of adoption, that my parents are two queer men, and that we still drive a beaten up 2011 Honda and not a fancy new car. My intersectional identities have to do with disabilities. Being a girl, being a dark-skinned Black girl, being adopted, having queer fathers, being an atheist, class status, immigration, and so many others. Yes, of course, I hold my head up high with pride about all my intersectional identities. But the world is not always kind to these identities, and that includes the world of school. I'm not trying to paint a sob story here, okay? What I'm trying to tell you here is that getting through a single day of school is so hard and filled with put-downs, violence, microaggressions, and a lot of exclusion. What I'm trying to tell you here is that a lot of kids like me are walking through the hallways of your school. Are you looking for us? Do you see us? I can't emphasize this enough to a group of educators. You must make school a safe place for all students. Stop putting content first. Put caring first. Put content second. And it is important for you to know that I am a super nerd, saying that too. I'm a nerd who loves to learn, but I will still beg you to put caring first. Thirdly, I want you to know that self-advocacy is everything. When I entered 6th grade, our principal, Dr. Plant, met with us and taught us how to advocate for ourselves with our teachers. She taught us how to write an email to our teachers and what to say to them, and urged us to do this often as possible. I took that advice to heart and reached out to all my teachers all the time. You must be bold, but also kind. You must be fierce, because if you don't advocate for yourself, who will you do that for? One thing that is so important to me and the work of disability justice is that we teach kids to be proud of all of their identities, and then we teach them how to advocate for those identities. If you want to take away something from my talk, this is it. Do a large, thoughtful unit on identities and get kids talking about them. Talk to students about how to write a professional email, all the parts, and how to advocate for themselves. It helps if this is coming from the principal, like it did in my case coming from Dr. Plant. She gave me skills and permission to be fierce. I know that I have agency. I know that adults can be wrong just as much as anyone else. And I know that I can kindly, but fiercely, challenge and question my teachers when they give me confusing, incomplete, or misleading information. What I feel and say and know is as important to anyone else, without question. That is agency. I'm going to do a quick review of these 3 main points, and it might sound like a disability justice poem, and I really like that it does. Being diagnosed with disabilities means that you get a new and loving community. I represent a lot of students in schooling today. School is hard. Don't make it harder than it needs to be for me. Have some flexibility. Assessments suck, all of them. And still, I press on. Kind kids are outnumbered 5-1. I hold my head up high about all of my intersectional identities. But the world is not always kind to these identities, and that includes the world of school. Stop putting content first. Put caring first. Self-advocacy is everything. Be kind, but be fierce. But be kind, but be fierce. Fourth of all, and last of all, not all teachers get it. Not all teachers get me. Not all teachers even care about my disabilities. I want to name a few educators who do get it, who do get me, and why and how they get me. I come from a family that deeply, deeply admires teachers, and we do everything so we can lift them up, the hard work that teachers do. We have come to describe these teachers as champions. A champion is a teacher that sees all of my assets and champions them, champions me. The champion teachers do everything in their power to lift me up. When I am in their classroom, I feel like I'm on the Olympic stand getting a gold medal. They champion me that much. My first champion was my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Strada, and she was my champion because she loved every single identity I brought into her room. She was a social justice warrior. She had books on beautiful Blackness and queer families like mine, and kinky, perfect hair like mine. Everywhere I turned in her classroom, I saw my beautiful intersectional identities mirrored to me. Mrs. Strada, my champion, I love you. My second champion is my fourth grade teacher, Miss Dickey. She adored me and my disabilities, and she stayed awake at night, thinking of ways to make me soar. She was the very first teacher who assessed me differently and let me do posters to show that I understood things. Oh, sure, I still took the tests, but she let my posters count too. One thing she did was so lovingly reframe what others called my learning deficits, and instead called them my learning differences. She said that I simply learned differently. And to a fourth grader like me, it made all the difference. Miss Dickey, my champion, I love you. My third champion is absolutely the hardest teacher I have ever had in my life. She is my science teacher. And just so you know, science is my favorite subject. Her name is Miss Warnick, and she slams us with so much content that you think it is going to be impossible, but she makes it possible. I know that she champions me in every way that she possibly can. She will give me she will give me that same hard test that everyone gets, but she will give me extra time and she will read it out loud. She will read it out loud to me, and she will let me use my notes, and I can go to a quiet space to take it. or come in at recess or lunch and come into school early. And honestly, I think that if she thought it would help me, she would sing and dance that test to me. Miss Warnick, my champion, I love you. My fourth champion is Dr. Q, my sixth grade humanities teacher. I couldn't do anything wrong in that class. She simply was not going to stand for me or any of us to not soar and succeed. She also taught us an important unit on identities, and a lot of what you are hearing from me today was formed in her classroom. I feel like a lot of who I am is because of her. I am a mini Dr. Q. And Dr. Q brought me deeper into knowing myself, and the deeper I knew myself, the more I loved myself. And I have come to know that love is my force field. Loving all of myself fiercely is key, especially when I'm in a school where it is often hostile and unloving. Dr. Q, my champion, I love you. My fifth champion is actually my vice principal. His name is Mr. Parham. I've told you I have a math disorder, and so I take a modified math curriculum, and I don't go to my 7th grade math class. I'm just now finishing 5th grade math, and I will start 6th grade math in a few days. I needed a place to do my math that was quiet and where I felt safe. Mr. Parham didn't miss a beat and immediately said, well, you can do it in my office during math period, and I'll just work somewhere else for that hour. I thought he was kidding, but he wasn't. So every single day, I go to his office at 8:40 and do my math there until 9:30. Mr. Parham lets me have his office. Mr. Parham puts caring first. He is generous, caring, and made me feel safe. Mr. Parham, my champion, I love you. Now there are others who support me greatly. Don't get me wrong. I can't name them all, but I can promise that you often tell allies what they mean to me. Disability justice demands that I name those who are allies in the work of equity. I want to say one more time how much it warms my heart to be in this Zoom room with you, my loving community. As a member of this loving community and as a young activist, I still have a lot to learn. For instance, when I was invited to speak for this series, I prepared by watching Lydia X. Z. Brown, who was another speaker. I learned more about ableism and the work of disability justice by watching them. They taught me that we all have so much to learn. Watching them, I saw a picture of who I hope to be someday. And I know that with my loving community supporting me like you are today, that I will always have the ability to hold my head up high and have pride about all my intersectional identities, including my beautiful disabilities, which I truly believe are my academic superpowers. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Helena. That was beautiful. There's so much, I don't even know where to begin. So much to take away from that. You have this amazing way of just very, very simply putting it out there. What, educators should be thinking about, what we need to think about first, not content, but caring. Just loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you're getting a lot of great praise in the chat as well, and affirmations as well over there. We are going to turn it over to Jamie, who has a couple of questions for you. Maybe we can have a little discussion with the remaining time here. And then Anna, if you're still here, could you put the slide back up just with the questions? And if not, I can do it. Let me see.
Oh, I'm about to do it.
Okay, gotcha. I just didn't see you on my screen, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for putting so much love and affirmations in the chat. Continue to do so. That was an amazing and inspiring speech. Thank you so much, Helena. Let's see, so we have a couple questions. The first one is, what does emancipatory education mean to you?
I've already said it, I think, but this is a good chance to make it stronger. It is knowing myself, all the things that make me who I am, my intersectional identities. It is loving myself fiercely, especially when I am in school. It is believing that I am capable when no one else does. It is finding a small group of champions. I spoke about my educator champions, but it is important to me that you also know that I have grown a great set of friends who support me and love me for who I am. Among them are Noah, Jack, Tim, Landon, Joseph, Sam, Ari, Alexander, and Quinn. It is knowing that I have agency. It is being grounded in myself. I'm done letting school happen to me, and now I actively happen to school. I feel like my main responsibility is to try to get a dialogue started about different topics, whether they be anti-Blackness, feminism, bullying, or disability justice.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. It sounds like from your talk and from all the names you just mentioned, you have such a powerful support team behind you. And it's great to see, definitely a great role models that we can all implement in our own practices as well. All right, so for the second question, if there's one thing you could share with us that teachers of students who have disabilities should know or learn when they prepare to be teachers, what do you think it should be?
I want them to know that students with disabilities can create wonderful things. I want new teachers to welcome all of the different ways there are to show that you know something, not only tests. I started doing posters in 4th grade, and Mr. Key counted that as part of my assessment. That gave me strength. I started going way beyond what my teachers asked me to do, even in 5th grade, even though I didn't get points for it, but maybe I could have. It would have helped me have better grades. Now in middle school, I do lots of videos to show that I comprehended the curriculum. I do posters and creative expressions, and I write extra things. I think those should count for something. I'm not saying to give me extra credit. I'm saying to let me show you in different ways that I know what you are teaching me. I also want to say students like myself that they can also find a group of friends like I did, and these friends can be from different grades, different ages, and from different spaces. That is what I did. Only one of the friends I listed is in my own class, and she has been a good friend to me forever. The other friends I mentioned, I had to find in a totally other grade. That means that kids like myself have to be bold and learn how to cross social social boundaries to find their people.
Yeah, such a powerful message that we can all learn from. Thank you. We have one last question here. What's been your favorite part about learning about disability justice through your experiences so far?
My favorite part is helping others be aware about learning differences, and specifically doing that through media platforms like that PSA I showed you, because my personal dream is to be in the film industry. I also love being a scholar and writing and speaking about my intersectional identities. My preferred research method is autoethnography for that reason. I have to tell you that in my family, we believe that leadership is defined by service to others. I love learning about disability justice because it gives me another way to be of service. Increasing awareness for disability justice helps make schools and society in a general better place for everyone. And that will always be important to me as a loving and caring person. Learning about disability justice has made me a better advocate for myself, but I am also a better advocate for others too. And it also validates my own experience and makes me feel seen. I know that I'm not alone, that you, my loving community, are standing with me. Last of all, better self-advocacy means I am learning more deeply. And like I said before, I am proud to identify as a nerd.
It's so great, Helena.
Thank you.
As a fellow nerd, I appreciate that a lot. I think what we're gonna do, we have about like 4 or 5 minutes left. I know there's a couple people who had some questions, one of which I think you've already kind of answered. But if you're willing to, maybe we can talk through one more question here that's in the Q&A. Would that work?
Yeah.
So it looks like Jillian has asked, I'm curious about how you navigate conversations with folks who see access needs as quote unquote special needs. And I think they're kind of talking about what you were saying before about how sometimes people think it's special treatment when you have extra time on tests, or when you get, accommodations or any kinds of supports that are different.
I liked what Lydia said, but that you can ask for what you need.
Yeah, being able to ask for what you need, for sure. And I think, you were saying this too, that, it is meant to enhance your own experience, not to take away something from somebody else or to make it tougher on, the teacher or anybody else, which is so true. I think we had one more person who had a question. I saw a hand up earlier. It was Jody. I don't know if you wanted to type out your question or speak out. And just let them respond if they want to. Nope, all good. Okay, question was answered already. It would make Lydia super, super happy to hear that you were able to watch their talk and learned from some of their stuff as well. Lydia was with us back in October and gave us a lot to think about, which I think you have shared as well, around needing to learn about ableism in schools, needing to learn about our intersectional identities in classrooms, which unfortunately we're not seeing as much of. So, yeah.
Lydia was very inspiring.
Awesome. I'll have to tell Lydia that you said that, because they'll be really, really happy about that. And so will Leroy, who I think you had a picture of in your PSA announcement. I saw that too, which was really cool. And Jillian, your question about access, sorry, is just, it's in the IEE website, which I'll put in the chat for us. Was there another, sorry.
I had a question if we have a second. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, I want to say to Helena that I pronounced your name Helena because that's my mom's name. So sorry about that. But I wanted to say what a beautiful demonstration you had of the power of bringing the head and the heart together. Some people in schools focus so much on the head that they forget the heart, and you do it so beautifully. And so you described love as your force field. And I wondered if you had an example of how you put that into practice, because I think that's something that's really hard to do, especially when it's the hardest, right? When you have one of those really hard moments. And so I was just wondering if you had an example, or you could kind of help us imagine what that looks like for you.
My example would be, even though something is hard, always put kindness first and towards others.
Thank you.
All right, you all, it looks like we're going to close out here. Helena, just a fabulous job. So much that I learned just from you and your experience, as always, and so many people here just giving you love here in the chat as well. Yeah, thank you everyone who has attended, our panelists, for being here today. We will have this talk available afterwards. It'll take a little bit of time, but we'll get it up there on our website so that you have access to it, to hear Helena's powerful words. Yeah, stay tuned for some more events from us at the Intersectional Disability Studies strand. We'll probably have maybe one more speaker this year or a panel coming up here. So hopefully you can join us for the next one as well. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Huge applause. If we were in a room, the applause would be just roaring.
Yes, the silent applause for sure.
Thank you all. Great job.